There's a therapist named Jimmy who decides one day to just stop pretending. No more careful, measured therapeutic language. No more, how does that make you feel? Just, you know what? Here's what I actually think. Your husband is treating you badly. Leave him. Your job is killing you. Quit. Your grief is burying you alive. Let's fix that. A psychiatrist named Viktor Frankl spent 3 years in Auschwitz and came out with the same conclusion. By the end of this, shrinking will never look quite the same to you. Because what Jimmy figured out in a California therapy office, Viktor Frankl figured out in Auschwitz. Same conclusion, very different commute. Let's talk about what shrinking is actually about. On the surface, it's a comedy about a grieving therapist who breaks all the rules and somehow helps everyone anyway. But underneath that, it's a show about what happens when loss completely hollows you out. Jimmy lost his wife, not to a clean narrative death that makes sense, to a random accident that made no sense at all. And for over a year, he just stopped. Stopped being a father, stopped being a friend, stopped being a therapist in any meaningful way. And then there's Paul, Harrison Ford playing a man with Parkinson's disease who keeps showing up every single day, not because it's easy, because showing up is the only answer he's found. The moment Jimmy starts telling his patients the truth, not the clinical, careful truth, but the human, messy, I've been through it too truth, everything changes for them and for him. That's not a plot device. That's Viktor Frankl's entire philosophy in one scene. Viktor Frankl was a Viennese psychiatrist, brilliant career, beautiful family, everything ahead of him. In 1942, he was sent to Auschwitz, then Dachau. He lost his wife, his parents, his brother, everything except one thing. The Nazis could take everything from him. His freedom, his possessions, his family. But as Frankl observed from inside the camps, they could not take his response to what happened to him. That gap between what happens to you and how you respond. That's where human freedom lives. After the war, he wrote Man's Search for Meaning. It has sold over 16 million copies. It was written in 9 days. His central idea, logotherapy, is almost embarrassingly simple. Human beings can survive almost anything if they have a reason why. Nietzsche actually said it first, but Frankl lived it. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Jimmy lost his why when he lost his wife. The entire show is about finding it again. Here's why this matters beyond a streaming show. Most of us will face a Jimmy moment, not the specific loss, but the specific hollowness, the moment where the thing that gave your life meaning is suddenly gone. And most of us do what Jimmy did for a while. We perform normalcy. We show up. We go through the motions. We say, "I'm fine," approximately 40 times a day to people who are also saying, "I'm fine," and nobody is fine. Frankl's insight, the one that shrinking dramatizes beautifully, is that meaning isn't found. It's chosen. You don't wait for life to hand you a reason to keep going. You decide what matters, you pick up the pieces, and then you show up, like Paul shows up, imperfectly, stubbornly, humanly. I think about this every time I'm in a season of life that feels like it has no point. Not grief necessarily, just the low-grade meaninglessness of a Tuesday in February, when nothing feels important and everything feels gray. Frankl's answer and Jimmy's answer is the same. Find one thing that needs you today. Do that thing. Tomorrow, find another. That's not a cure, but it's a start, and apparently it's enough to build a life on. Here's the part that gets me every time. Frankl didn't just write about meaning from a safe distance. He tested his theory in the worst possible laboratory in human history. And what he found in the camps, watching people survive or not survive, wasn't about strength or luck or even faith necessarily. It was about story. The people who made it were the ones who could still tell themselves. A story about why tomorrow mattered, a child waiting for them, a book they needed to finish, a person they needed to find. Jimmy's story in Shrinking is about finding that narrative again, not the same story he had before his wife died. That story is over, and the show is honest about that, but a new one, built from the same ingredients: love, friendship, showing up, just arranged differently. And I think that's the most useful thing either Frankl or Shrinking offers us. Not everything happens for a reason, which is honestly one of the most unhelpful things you can say to someone in pain. But this, you get to decide what the reason is. After the fact, retroactively, you look at what happened and you ask, okay, what does this make possible that wasn't possible before? That's not denial, that's authorship. Shrinking is about a lot of things: grief, friendship, terrible boundary violations in a therapeutic context, the fact that Harrison Ford is somehow funnier than everyone expected, but at its core, it's about Frankl's central argument. You cannot always choose what happens to you. You can always choose what it means. And the people who figure that out, the Jimmys, the Pauls, the Gabbys of the world, don't just survive their losses, they build something new from the wreckage, something that couldn't have existed without the loss. Man's search for meaning is in the description. It's short, it's devastating, and it will make you want to call someone you love immediately after reading it, which is probably exactly what Frankl intended. Thank you for being here. It genuinely means the world. See you next week.